All right, rejoining the channel is Moochie award-winning military writer Kevin Maurer. So Kevin's latest for Rolling Stone is titled Team Trump is Actually Drawing Up Attack Plans for Mexico. The subhead is Trump is eager to breach Mexico's sovereignty to attack cartels. Officials say, just don't call it an invasion. So talk to us about this one.
This is really kind of an extension of what I reported earlier this year around plans and sort of what a soft invasion of Mexico might look like. Last week, the New York Times reported that he had signed a directive to start this sort of military planning. This week, we saw some movement. Mexicans extradited 26 alleged cartel members. Department of Defense moved after one of the bigger cartels in Mexico, not the Department of Justice, or Treasury. Went after one of the other cartels about counterfeit timeshares. So this seems to be the pattern where the administration comes out. There's some saber rattling. Mexico responds. They say that they're not going to accept military intervention, and then they do something like these transfer of cartel members.
So let me play some sound first. Here's Donald Trump's sentiments on the campaign trail from last year.
Speaking of the safety of our country, we have seen the Mexican cartel and we have seen smugglers targeting American law enforcement with weapons and with their tactics right now. For example, I just reported on 4 RPGs and 8 IEDs found in a Mexican scout site on the other side of the border in the Tucson sector. And then today we're talking about the Mexican cartels using drone jammers to intercept our drone capabilities and our surveillance technology. So how do you counter that? How do you keep American law enforcement safe and our border patrol safe? And how do you keep the weapons out of the hands of the cartel?
We need a military operation. What's happening, what you're just telling me, we need a military operation. These people have become military. They're very rich. They have a lot of money. They're among the richest people probably in the world. They're very rich and they're very evil. And people are dying at levels that nobody's ever seen from fentanyl poisoning, and it comes through the border, comes from China and through the border, and we're going to get it stopped. And whatever you need, if it's going to be military in addition to Texas, which has really done a good job, or the best of the jobs, but you take a look at Arizona, it's open, it's an open sieve. You take a look at other places. I'm going to help New Mexico. New Mexico wants to do it, and they can't seem to do it because the Democrat politicians don't do it. And we're going to win New Mexico because of it. You've seen the numbers. So we're going to have to get in some military action. And we're going to take, if we need military, look, they're killing 300,000 people a year. I think it's more than that. They always say 100, 102. It's over 300,000 people are being killed from fentanyl and drugs that come over the border. We're going to do something about it. That's like having a big war. That's not like having a little war. You go to war, you don't lose that many people. In the Civil War, we lost 600,000 people. We're losing 300,000 people a year. We're not going to stand for it.
And then we also discussed Evan Hafer, who's the founder of Black Rifle Coffee Company, on the Joe Rogan show, kind of intimating that it would be an easy go if we were to attack Mexico, attack the cartels using Tier 1 forces.
Delta Force is hunting me, bro. I would be so terrified.
Is that a real thing that they've proposed doing?
Yes, that is a real thing.
Who proposed that?
I'm almost positive either JD or Trump had said something with the new guy from ICE, like we're going to mobilize Tier 1 units against the cartel. The only thing I thought was like, retire. If you guys got some money, man, I would like put that away, like maybe move Jamaica.
Open
I don't know,
a
go
restaurant.
Somewhere. Yeah, buy a restaurant. Like try to go legit because
go legit.
Dude, if those guys are hunting you, by the way, like you're done.
And I think Evan Hafer's exactly right. I think force on force, our Tier 1 units against Sicario soldiers of any of the cartels, it's not a fair fight, and they could absolutely win that. I think 10 times out of 10. The problem is then what? And I think what my reporting seems to lack right now, and what I haven't been able to nail down is what in state does this policy get to? What does victory look like in this campaign? And I think until you can answer that, I think you've got to be careful about implementing military force anywhere. I think they are serious. They have lived up to the campaign promise of militarizing the border and really trying to stem the flow. We can debate the policy of that, but at the end of the day, it has been successful. It has stymied it. The other piece to point out, though, is this when they did designate in January, when the State Department declared 8 cartels foreign terrorist organizations, 2 of the cartels were in Venezuelan origin. And so, what an intelligence officer that I know that was sort of monitoring this as well said, the scope is bigger than just Mexico. It's really stopping the flow of illicit drugs across the southern border. So it wouldn't surprise me if you saw some sort of action in Venezuela as well.
That sort of sounds like mission creep already to me, right? We had another episode with our friend Stefano Rittendale, who was talking about 2 of the cartels combining, 2 of the major cartels combining to counter any sort of military action from the United States. Are we seeing any more of that activity?
I haven't seen anything, or Stefano and I didn't really talk about any kind of alignment against this. This is more, there seems to be another incremental step forward towards what this mission could look like, or what a campaign could look like, and target packages are being drawn up right now.
Just like with Midnight Hammer, there was some tipper information, right? Activity around Whiteman Air Force Base and the conga line of tankers going across the pond. What sorts of things would we see in advance of any military action against the cartels?
Well, it depends on what unit gets tapped to do it. I mean, you're going to look at movement around Virginia Beach and in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Fort Bragg, is the center of gravity for all Army special operations. And if the Tier 1 JSOC units go, JSOC is there as well. So you could get a tap there. Uptick in drone and ISR. I think you're seeing that already. There was this week the CPD had a drone that was up deep inside Mexico that was working on ISR there. I think you'll see an uptick there. I know that the kind of sexy Hollywood version is a commando raid of some sort, but I think you could also, I think very much in the cards, you could see some sort of drone operation to take out a leader. Probably the less risky, at least personnel wise, move that you could make.
So not really an abad kind of thing. We wouldn't expect.
I mean, you could see it, but I'm wondering why, right? Why risk putting boots on the ground in Mexico if you can remove the target from the battlefield using a drone?
Well, I think the why would be the optics of it. There's something about MQ-9s. It isn't as forceful and committed that maybe, and I'm not saying this justifies the use of troops, I'm just sort of trying to think of why would we use troops? And I think because of the optics and the other secondary message it sends.
I mean, I hear you. I also know that, Mika over at Cartel Insider had a great quote about saying that the narcos are paying attention to what's going on, but the end of the quote is what I think is interesting, where he says, for now, their focus is still on their rivals. Even so, nobody's missing the fact that the U.S. is circling overhead, watching every move. The psychological operation of a drone strike is that cartel members, much like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban at the height of the war in Afghanistan, become afraid of the sky. Because everywhere they go now, they know that there could be a drone, there could be something above them targeting them. So that makes every movement treacherous. But again, that also, Mexico gets a vote here, right? So at some point, I'm not sure we're at the level yet, cartel-wise, where you can unilaterally do an Abbottabad style raid where you don't tell the Mexicans what you're doing, and you show up on, in Sinaloa or someplace, with a SEAL team or a Delta team. I think. I'm not sure we're there yet, and I'm not sure what the second and third order effects of diplomacy on that would be.
As you said at the outset of this administration, they declared some of the cartels as terrorist organizations. And so at that point, that status gives some authorities to the commander-in-chief. But not unlike what the president's doing with his takeover of Washington, D.C. and L.A. and other American cities using the National Guard. you can declare a national emergency. Have we declared the fentanyl flow and the other threats of the cartels a national emergency yet?
Not that I'm aware of, and even though these organizations are declared terrorist organizations, it's not, does not authorize force. It's really more for sanctions and for folks, drawing folks in who are supporting these organizations. Korn got into this idea of what it would take to get unilateral military action against them. It's not a far reach. You just have to prove a couple things. That fentanyl, like you say, is an attack on the United States. That the Mexican government is unable to or unwilling to stop the flow, and that a commando raid, like you're talking about, is proportional to the threat that this invasion or this attack of fentanyl is. If they can, and they could argue that, and I don't think it's hard to argue that. Like, you could probably argue that pretty easily, and that would authorize the president to go with force. And then from there, you have to decide what that force is, and then when you do it, what happens.
Yeah, well, obviously, like you say, that's the easy to get in, hard to get out piece. So far, President Trump has proved his willingness in the form of Midnight Hammer to just do, one and done. There's no other indications that we intend to do any more direct military action against Iran at this time. We still have a single carrier strike group in the North Arabian Sea, but they're not marshaling to attack any ports or anything else as a function of the threat against shipping or whatever. So that was a singular activity, a singular action. I think you could see, just like you say, a series of drone strikes, not unlike some of what the Israelis have done against the Houthis and Hezbollah and the Iranians. Maybe we would use, if you want to go sort of high end, use F-35s and you get cool FLIR footage and so forth and so on. They could get in and out with impunity and strike the targets with great precision. Those are manned aircraft. So there's something about just striking with drones that sort of suggests you're not fully committed on the outcome, maybe. But again, I think what we would see is single raid, take out who you're going to take out. Everybody gets out and that's it. We're not going to occupy the cartel's footprint or anything else like that. And we would work with the Mexican government to go, okay, here's what we've done. We've taken out the target list of the high value guys. We got 1, 2 through 10. And now you guys go in there and make sure that they don't flow back in. Because to your original question, what is mission accomplished? Is it we completely eradicate the cartels? That's not doable. Is it we completely stop the flow of fentanyl? Well, it comes through other sources, ports of entry from China as well. And this is what Stefano pointed out on the episode I did with him, which is, most of the fentanyl does not come across the southern border. It comes, in Los Angeles or in Long Beach and the other ports of entry. So that's a different problem and a different tactic to completely stop the flow of fentanyl. And the Attorney General has liked to use some hyperbole about how many lives have already been saved by eradicating the flow of humans across the border. And it was something like half of America. It was like 180 million lives have been saved. And so it's like, okay, I think that's a little bit of an overstatement. Again, what would the administration do in the wake of kinetic action to say, okay, mission accomplished? And that's not quite clear.
President Trump, you're right, has been bold in some of the things he's done. The strike in Iran and some other things, and it's panned out and worked. Could he do a strike and kill a high level cartel member in some way? I think that, I don't think that's the problem. I think, it's like, what are the ripples after that? You throw that rock in the pond. That's the question. And then I also think that, he ran as the anti-war president. No more foreign wars. Putting guys on the ground is a next step. If another country put soldiers on our if the Mexicans raided across into El Paso and hit a house and then came back across, I'm not sure how, we wouldn't take that as, that was proportional. So I think to me, I think it's going to be air. I think he's able to live on this idea that he's not employing American troops into foreign wars. And I think air and drones fit somewhat of a profile or a pattern. He used a drone strike against Iran and Baghdad, Soleimani. So, I mean, I think that's probably, if I'm betting, if we're betting on odds, I think that's probably above tier one. But this also speaks a little bit, with the current Defense Department. When we talked about this last episode about, we have this machismo, right? This military special ops, they can do anything, and they're very capable of doing far more missions than I think we can all comprehend. But they're not the solution to everything, and I think I fear we're sliding down into the war on terror idea that employing the military to solve our foreign policy problems is the answer, and I just don't think it is. I think it's a piece of a larger problem.
I think the one defense against the forever war piece is President Trump is a master of working news cycles, right? And he also knows not to be too insouciant about it, but he knows how to entertain, and he knows how the plot line should come to a tidy end. And so that's why I think you're correct. And as you were talking, I was like, yeah, I think boots on the ground, tier one, Abbottabad style raid is a distant probability. I think it's more like Rising Lion, the Israeli attack on Iran, where they used drones, EW assets, cruise missiles to take out the integrated air defense. Not that Mexico hasn't, or the cartels rather, have an integrated air defense. And then some manned airplanes. And again, the manned airplanes would be stealth airplanes. If you wanted to go like really blockbuster, maybe you would, not just F-35s, you'd throw some B-2s in there, and really go above board just for, overwhelming force, take out all of the target set, and come back with the BDA. And now here's, Raisin Kane and Secretary Hegseth in the Pentagon press room showing the FLIR footage, and boom, here, this is a drug lab here in the jungle, and kaboom, and here's a guy trying to get away, and kaboom, and, all of that. So it's like, look, we hit everything we wanted to hit. This will, stamp out the threat of cartel manufactured illegal drugs coming into America for years to come. Ta-da, roll credits, right? And then to your concern about, well, does it really do that though? At some point that becomes somebody else's problem. And so they're like, well, now the smarty pants investigative journalists like Kevin Maurer are going to go down there and find out that there's actually something. It's just like what they said about the BDA on the Iranian nuke sites, right? They're like, look, we dropped every one of these GBU-57s down the exhaust vents that we intended. That thing's done, right? I don't care who goes there and what French scientist, says, no, they still have some capability. That's fake news, right? So I think a similar thing would happen in this case. It seems from your reporting and all the administration officials who talk to you either on the record or on background are like, the president has not given up on this idea.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for takeaways, I think this is not hyperbole. He's serious about this. The administration is starting plans up. The Defense Department is leaning forward on this. Law enforcement has said that they've seen a refocus on the cartels, and we'll see what the next step is. Be it an airstrike, some sort of tier one raid, a cyber strike, all of it. As the administration has said, this is not saber rattling. This is not art of the deal. This is something that he believes is essential to the national security of the country.
Well, check out Kevin's reporting at Rolling Stone. Again, the most current article that was just published is titled "Team Trump is Actually Drawing Up Attack Plans for Mexico." And Kevin, we'll look to have you on as this story develops.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. If you're not already a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything. And in the meantime, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.